On a rain-soaked night in Mumbai, the rain fell like an old, familiar sorrows, low, relentless, and cold. The city's dazzling lights had retreated into the dull yellow glow of streets, and most people had already taken shelter inside their homes, leaving the roads nearly deserted. Outside a luxury hotel, the sharp echo of high heels struck the wet pavement. It was Anaya Kapoor, a name the entire Indian startup world knew well, the founder and CEO of Health Bites, a woman who had built a multi-million-dollar company before the age of 30. The party that had just ended was meant to celebrate a successful new corporate deal, but there was no smile on Anaya's face. Her steps were unsteady, her lips trembled slightly, and her eyes were empty. The smell of alcohol clung to her breath, dissolving into the damp air as rain pressed her silk sari tightly against her body. Wet strands of hair clung to her forehead and cheeks as she tried to cross the road, as if she were running from her own exhaustion and suffocation. Suddenly, her foot slipped and she fell in the middle of the road. From a few meters away, a truck's headlights rushed toward her, its horn screaming like a warning cry through the rain. Time seemed to freeze. Just then, a man came running from nowhere. He threw off his raincoat and, without a second thought, pulled Anaya to the side of the road. The truck passed just inches away, and in the next moment, everything went quiet, except for their breathing. "Are you all right?" the man asked softly. Anaya's eyes fluttered open, and she saw him standing there, his face drenched in rain, wearing simple clothes, tired eyes, and trembling lips. His name was Ravi Sharma, an auto-rickshaw driver who ferried passengers through the city's narrow lanes every night. "You touched me," Anaya muttered, her voice thick with alcohol and contempt. "Do you know who I am?" Ravi said nothing. He simply picked up his raincoat and draped it over her shoulders. "You're alone and very drunk. You should go somewhere safe," he said calmly. Anaya laughed a laugh filled with pain, exhaustion, and bitterness. "Everyone wants to control me. And what can you do?" She tried to stand again, but her body refused to cooperate. Ravi stepped forward to support her, but she pushed his hand away. At that moment, her foot slipped again, and she collapsed, unconscious. Ravi stood there for a moment, thinking, then he walked to his auto-rickshaw, opened her bag, and found her identification card. It read, "Anaya Kapoor, Health Bites Pvt. Limited, Santa Cruz West, Mumbai." By then, the rain had grown heavier. Ravi lifted her onto his back, placed her gently into the auto, and drove straight towards Santa Cruz without taking another passenger. The auto moved slowly through flyovers, signals, and narrow lanes, as if an ordinary man were carrying a great secret under his roof. Anaya's bungalow was a beautiful villa with high walls, CCTV cameras, and the kind of silence that comes with wealth. There was no one at the gate, but the small door was open. Ravi stopped the auto, carried her inside, and laid her down on the sofa. He removed her shoes and placed a blanket beside her. As he turned to leave, he noticed her watch and earrings lying on the floor. Quietly, he picked them up and arranged them neatly on the side table from his bag. He took out a bottle of water and an Ayurvedic anti-hangover pill, something he often carried for long nights, and placed them near the sofa. For a moment he paused, looking at the bright room, the paintings on the walls, and the softness on the face of the woman the world considered powerful. Right now, she looked so fragile that even a word might break her. "You'll be fine," Ravi said softly, and then he left without another sound. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Ravi sat on his auto seat, warming his hands with his breath, and disappeared back into the city's lanes. But there was no pride in his heart, no greed, only a quiet truth that humanity is never measured by wealth or poverty. When the first morning sunlight filtered through the windows of the Santa Cruz bungalow, Anaya woke with a heavy head, a dry throat, and a strange exhaustion, as if the night had taken something from her. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The ceiling was familiar, it was her home, but there was an emptiness she couldn't immediately explain. She was lying on the sofa, covered with a light blanket. Her slippers were neatly placed near her feet. Her watch and earrings were safe on the table, and beside them were a bottle of water and a pill. She sat there for a while, trying to understand who had done all this. Fragments of the night returned: the rain, the slippery road, the blinding headlights, and then a face simple, calm, with eyes full of quiet truth. Ravi Sharma. Suddenly Anaya stood up, her heartbeat quickening. She went straight to the security room and pulled up the CCTV footage, rewinding time to around 1 in the morning. On the screen, the scene unfolded exactly as she felt it. Ravi supporting her as he brought her inside. No hurry in his movements, no trace of desire or greed. He laid her on the sofa, covered her with a blanket, placed her jewelry carefully on the table, took out water and medicine from his bag, and set them beside her. At the door, he paused for a brief moment, looked back, and left without a word. Tears filled Anaya's eyes. She stopped the video. Her chest felt heavy, not from alcohol or fatigue, but from shame. The man she had insulted the night before had saved her life and asked for nothing in return: not money, not recognition, not gratitude. She returned to her room and sat down, overwhelmed. For years she had commanded people, made decisions, and believed the world ran on money and power. But that morning, an auto rickshaw driver had shaken her entire belief system. After a while, she called her driver. "Take me somewhere," she said, sending a location she had found from Ravi's auto app the previous night. The car moved toward a part of the city Anaya had probably never visited before, where tall buildings slowly gave way to smaller ones. Wide roads narrowed into cramped lanes, and a different reality began to unfold. Tea stalls appeared at every corner, old posters clung to crumbling walls, and the voices of children echoed through the narrow lanes as the car finally stopped in an old neighborhood. Anaya stepped out and looked ahead at a decaying building whose staircase paint had long peeled away. She hesitated for a moment, then went inside. On the third floor was a small room with the door half open, a faint smell of medicine drifting out. Anaya knocked softly. After a few moments, The door opened, and there he was, Ravi Sharma, the same familiar face in simple clothes, tired eyes, and that same quiet calm. He looked surprised. "You," he said softly. Anaya took a deep breath. "I was looking for you." Ravi studied her for a second, then stepped aside. "Please, come in." The room was tiny: an old cot, a small cupboard, a stove in the corner, and a box filled with medicines. On the cot lay an elderly woman, Ravi's mother, Radha Sharma. Her body looked weak, but her eyes were warm with affection. "Who has come, son?" she asked gently. "Ma, she's the one I told you about," Ravi replied. Radha Sharma looked at Anaya and nodded with a faint smile. "Are you all right, my child?" Anaya's eyes filled with tears again. "Yes, because of your son." She took an envelope from her bag and held it out toward Ravi. This is just to say thank you." Ravi glanced at the envelope, then looked into Anaya's eyes and gently pushed his hand back. "I don't need this." Anaya was stunned. "But you saved my life." Ravi's voice remained calm. "You were in a state where any human being would have helped. There was no bargain in it." Anaya looked around at the simple room, the limited resources, the quiet struggle of an ordinary life. "Don't you need money?" she asked softly. Ravi smiled. "I do, but not every need can be fulfilled with money." Silence settled over the room for a few moments, and Anaya felt as if something inside her walls built over years had begun to crack. "I insulted you," she said, her voice heavy. "Please forgive me." Ravi nodded gently. "You were drunk." I understand. That answer made her feel even heavier. She stood up. "If you ever need help," Ravi finished calmly, "I will ask myself." Anaya took one last look around the room. This world was completely different from hers, yet somehow far more real. She stepped outside, and as she walked down the stairs, she realized for the first time that although she had gained so much in life, she had also lost something essential: connection with people. Standing on the street below, she looked up at the sky. The sun was fully up now. Mumbai was awake again, and somewhere deep inside Anaya Kapoor, a new story was quietly being born. From that day on, something in Anaya's life began to change. Change does not arrive with grand announcements. It enters silently, like sunlight falling on rain-soaked leaves. Something within her started to soften. She was still the same Anaya, successful, decisive, but now her eyes searched for something else. 3 days later, on her way to the office, she stopped her driver for the first time. "I'll book a cab myself today," she said, opening the app from which she had found Ravi that night. She looked at his profile: simple, just like his life, with no pretense, only truth, and booked the ride. Within minutes, Ravi's auto stood outside her bungalow. Anaya stepped out, wearing a salwar kameez instead of a sari, light and comfortable, as if she wanted to feel like someone else for once. Ravi looked at her, then lowered his gaze. "Where would you like to go, madam?" His voice carried respect, but also distance. "Nariman Point," she replied, settling into the auto as it began to move. Morning, Mumbai buzzed outside tea stalls. School children, traffic horns, but inside the auto, There was silence. After a few minutes, Anaya finally broke it. "Are you always this calm, Ravi?" Tea stalls, the chatter of school children, and a constant blare of traffic horns drifted in from all sides. Yet inside the auto there was a strange, heavy silence. After a few minutes, Anaya broke it herself. "Are you always this calm?" she asked. Ravi glanced at her eyes in the rearview mirror and smiled faintly. "When life starts shouting, people should learn how to stay quiet," he said. Anaya liked the answer, or perhaps it surprised her. In all these years, very few people had spoken to her like that, without fear and without any hidden motive. "Did you ever think of doing something else?" she asked again. "I did," Ravi replied. "I was studying engineering. I was in my 3rd year when my father passed away. Then my mother fell ill. There was no money, so I had to leave my studies." "So you drive an auto," so that Anaya began, but her sentence remained unfinished. "So that my mother's treatment can continue." Ravi completed it calmly. "Do you want to study again?" Anaya asked, now genuinely curious. "Yes," Ravi said honestly, "but time and money never come together. And sometimes responsibility becomes bigger than dreams." The auto stopped at a traffic signal. Lost in the surrounding crowd, Anaya felt for the first time that millions of stories like Ravi's are written on the walls of this city, yet no one ever stops to read them. "Have you never complained?" she asked. Ravi shook his head slowly. "Complaining doesn't fill an empty stomach. I just believe that every single day is an opportunity, no matter how small." When they reached near her office, Ravi stopped the auto. Anaya was about to get down, then paused. "Can you come to pick me up tomorrow?" she asked after a moment. Ravi stayed silent for a few seconds, then said, "If you want, yes." "I want to," Anaya said softly, and walked away. That day at the office, her mind felt different. Between meetings, she kept thinking about Ravi's words, how someone could accept life so simply, without anger, without frustration. In the evening, when she called Ravi again, he arrived right on time. The journey was longer today. She had to visit a new project site. On the way, Anaya began talking again, this time with more warmth than before. "Don't you ever feel that what you're doing isn't enough?" she asked. "Every day," Ravi replied. "But then I see my mother smile, and it feels like the day was worth it." "You're very different," Anaya said. "So are you," Ravi replied instantly. "Most people either fear people like me or pity us." "You listen," Anaya smiled, but couldn't find the words to respond. Sitting inside the auto, she felt as though for the first time in her life, she was sitting beside someone as an equal, not above, not below. That day, then the next, then an entire week passed. Anaya began calling Ravi regularly, sometimes for office, sometimes for meetings, sometimes just to wander through some corner of the city. Their conversations slowly became easy and natural, flowing from dreams to childhood memories. Ravi spoke of how he had bought his first auto and how his mother's first medicines were paid for with that money. Anaya spoke of raising her voice in boardrooms full of men and how every victory had still felt lonely. One evening, when they stopped near Marine Drive and the waves crashed against the shore, Anaya suddenly asked, "Aren't you ever afraid?" "Everyone feels fear," Ravi said, "but I leave that fear behind while moving forward. If I stop, fear will win." Anaya remained silent for a while. The air was heavy with moisture, and Ravi's words carried a steady strength. She realized she wasn't sitting beside an ordinary auto driver. She was sitting beside someone who hadn't just lived life, but understood it. That night, when she returned home, Anaya wrote something in her notebook for the first time, just 2 words. Ravi Sharma beneath it. She wrote a question, one she didn't yet need answered, only asked of herself, can I accept someone from the heart without judging them for the first time? The answer was still hidden somewhere, but one thing was certain. Something had begun to grow between them, not through words, but through understanding. No matter how busy Mumbai's mornings become, there are moments when an unspoken silence still exists. Within that silence, Ravi washed his auto and replayed the past weeks in his mind. He knew what was happening wasn't normal. A wealthy woman, one of the city's most powerful business figures, was calling an auto driver every day, not just for travel, but perhaps for a different kind of peace. Ravi could sense that Anaya had grown comfortable speaking with him. She laughed freely, spoke about her childhood, asked about his mother, and had even once taken him to the rooftop of her office to show him the city. But as their closeness grew, society's eyes began to notice them just as quickly. That morning began quietly. Ravi arrived at Anaya's bungalow on time. As always, she was ready wearing a simple cotton kurta, her hair held back with a plain clip, a faint tiredness on her face. "Where do you want to go today?" Ravi asked. "Somewhere where there aren't many people," Anaya said softly. Without asking any questions, Ravi started the auto. They headed toward Whirly Sea Face, where waves crashed loudly against the walls, yet a strange sense of calm always lingered in the air. Suddenly, in a very low voice, Anaya said, "Sometimes it feels like, even after having everything, I'm still empty inside." Emptiness is a very personal feeling. If someone who seems whole on the outside can fall apart on the inside. "Do you ever feel broken?" Anaya asked. "Every day," Ravi said honestly, "but my mother's smile puts me back together." A kind of silent understanding developed between them, no promises, no hopes for the future. Just 2 people who had come together at a crossroads on different paths in life, but that peace didn't last long. The next day, while standing at a tea shop, 2 young men taunted Ravi by telling him that a picture of him hanging out with Anaya Kapoor had gone viral on social media, with dirty comments and accusations being spread about him. Ravi's chest felt heavy as he saw the blurry pictures on Twitter, captioned "Mumbai Queen and her mysterious man." He knew something like this would happen one day, but he hadn't thought it would happen so soon and so uglier. That evening, when Anaya called, he didn't pick up, and the next day when he went to her house, she wasn't there. Her phone was switched off. 3 days passed. On the fourth day, when Roby finally picks up the phone, he tells her that he doesn't want Anaya to have to endure the filth of society because of him, because he is a respected name, and being with him will only increase laughter, ridicule, and questions. At a corporate event, Anaya also faces ridicule, but she makes it clear that even the thoughts of people who don't know the way are limited. The more she tries to get away from Roby, the deeper her attraction to Anaya deepens. Finally, she herself goes to the auto stand and sits next to Roby for tea, saying, "Society may be cheap, but will they be the same?" From there, a slow, genuine conversation begins again, but the media doesn't stop news headlines, videos everywhere. Ravi is turned into an object, a joke, which deeply hurts Anaya. Just then, news of Ravi's mother's illness comes. They go to the hospital. Anaya holds her hand for the first time and says, "She is by my side." When her mother's condition stabilizes, Anaya offers to resume Ravi's studies. She will bear all the expenses, but Ravi says it will start on her own terms. That night, both of them sit in different places and realize that this relationship has taught them to know themselves more deeply, but they did not know that a truth awaits them ahead which will put their faith to the greatest test. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel for more such romantic stories. See you again in a new video. Until then, be well, stay healthy, stay safe, with all your best wishes. Goodbye, here. Thank you.